Hi, I'm Liz Marshall. I'm a film director, and you're watching the Canadian Film Review. The Ghosts in Our Machine is a feature-length documentary that had its world premiere at the Hot Docs International Documentary Film Festival here in Toronto. And we're in our fourth week of our theatrical run. And
Which is exceptional for a documentary.
exactly, especially, I must add, for a social issue documentary that deals with kind of a tough subject, and we can get into that more in this interview. Um, but yes, we're very excited, and we're doing well in Canada, and it's setting the stage actually for our U.S. release and the rest of the world.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about what the documentary is about.
Sure. So, The Ghosts in Our Machine explores the moral question: are animals property to be owned and used, or are they sentient beings deserving of rights? And this is a big, overarching question, but I ground this big issue in a human narrative. And the protagonist of The Ghosts in Our Machine is Jo-Anne McArthur. She's an acclaimed animal photographer, and I follow her over the course of a year to different parts of Canada, the US, and in Europe, where she's photographing animals at the front line, if you will. And what I mean by that is that the ghosts are the animals that we don't easily acknowledge. They're mostly hidden from our view. In fact, the tagline of the film is that animals are hidden within the shadows of our highly mechanized world. And so it's not a film about companion animals, and it's not a film about wildlife. It's the film about the billions of others and all different species that have been relegated as tools for production. And so, it's a big subject, and dealing with a big subject like that, you have to really find your focal point when you're telling a story. And so I really grounded this in the journey of one person who is trying to bring the voice and the story of these animals to the fore through her photography. And so the trajectory of her work is that she's trying to get published in more mainstream publications. And that really intrigued me as a storyline. And also the creation of her first book, called We Animals. Not we as in small, I mean we as in we're all animals. Um, and so that's sort of the hook and the thread of the film. But through Jo-Anne's lens, we get close and personal with a cast of animal characters over the course of a year. And so it's an ebb and flow between witnessing and maybe revealing and becoming aware for the first time of all these different animals that have literally become sort of bits and parts of ingredients all around us in our urban centers and our industrialized world. But then it ebbs and flows into beautiful, scenes that have levity and joy and beauty at different animal sanctuaries.
So the thing that I found really interesting, I saw the documentary at Hot Docs and I loved it. And the thing I found really interesting now, after it's had its theatrical release, is seeing that Jo-Anne couldn't get her photos published, to save her life. Like nobody was interested in this story. And yet, for the theatrical release, like having it held over for 4 weeks, a documentary is a rare thing. So obviously there's the demand for that information, and yet she couldn't find a national or international outlet that was willing to kind of tackle that, which was very interesting to me.
That's interesting to me as well because there's layers to this film. I'm a documentarian documenting a documentarian, and in essence, what this film is actually doing is pitching Jo-Anne's photographs to the whole world. And that's the exciting part of making a documentary that can actually have a powerful platform, is that you can bring these stories we can help to usher these stories into the public eye. And that's what we're seeing. I think also the timing of this film is amazing. I think it's perfect timing. I think there's a zeitgeist that's happening. There's an emergence of awareness, consciousness, if you will, about this issue at large, and more people are interested in it. And it's also, thankfully, the film is being in. People are embracing the film. We're getting great reviews. Of course, there's been, you're not across the board going to have only good reviews when you deal with a controversial subject. But mostly what we're seeing is that people are really responding to the film, and it's not a film that's preaching to the converted. It's for a wider demographic. That's the intention.
Yeah, and that was something that you could have easily walked into, was being very preachy about it. Some of the things I loved about the documentary was the subtleness that you used. I wrote in my review how on the dinner table it was all vegan food, and yet you weren't saying, this is a dinner table of vegan food. Look, we're that much better than everybody else because we don't eat any of the meat or anything. So there was so much subtlety going on, even in her photos. It wasn't like we weren't seeing like the insides of animals being left, outside in a dump somewhere. It wasn't that kind of shock value. It was, and yet the screams of the minks in those cages was like horrifying, And I thought, like, if there was babies in that cage, is like human babies, we would be outraged, and yet all you can hear are these screams of these minks that are ready for production. So it was the subtleness that I really appreciated, and I feel like maybe as well larger audiences will as well.
Exactly, and thank you for that. That's of course extreme. That everything about filmmaking, every frame, every moment, every transition is deliberate. Nothing is random. And that subtlety that you're speaking of was very, very deliberate. At the same time, we didn't want to water this down and create sort of a soft film that lacks integrity and that doesn't bear witness to the truth. So finding that balance was a dance. And the editing process is always a great journey to try to find that tone over time and to really nail it. So it was very important to deal with the fact that animal industries are gruesome. That's a reality, that's a fact. Most people don't want to know about it. Most people don't want to see, they don't want to look. And therein lies the greatest challenge in getting this issue focused on in the mainstream, which is why I wanted to focus on that story trajectory of Jo-Anne's, but is also why I want this film to be noticed by the mainstream. The subtlety is important, but also punctuating certain sequences with reality and truth. And so I like to say that the film is a gentle film that has dramatic impact.
Going back to what you were saying, which is exactly true, and I like that concept that you're trying to bring it to a larger audience, and making it more mainstream, is because we have a real comfort level with the sanitization of everything that's produced, to the point where children are now turning around and saying, where does milk come from? The grocery store. I read in a book once that if you're comfortable with killing it, then you should be comfortable with eating it. So, I'm now a vegetarian because I know I can't kill a cow, and it's something that, and I'm working, like your film and books I read, it's slowly going towards being a vegan. But I know that for my own survival, I would be okay to kill a fish, which I know that's a whole other issue going on there. But I just feel like, if you don't know the process to which your food reaches the grocery store, then you can't make educated decisions on whether that's something that you want to consume. So there's a real, I see that as a real undercurrent to your documentary, that we need to kind of become a little bit more knowledgeable, and not so much just reading articles about it, but just being like part of Jo-Anne's photos, being a part of that process where she goes out and finds that information. So was that something that you were kind of you worked on for the documentary as well?
Definitely. The intention of the film is also basically what Jo-Anne does, and I think what she achieves very successfully with her body of work, is that she is photographing animals in such a way that she's presenting them to the world as individuals as opposed to things. And I wanted the film to do that too, through sound and picture. Cinematically, you can do a great deal to bring something to life and to try to convey that. So always from the get-go, what I wanted to do was bring the animals into the room, wherever that is, whether it's your living room and you're watching it on a television, or whether you're in a theater and you have that surround sound experience, or whether it's in a town hall setting or a basement somewhere, doesn't matter. The point of the film is that I really wanted to structure it and create an experience for the audience so that they see animals differently, for who they are. And really one of the biggest takeaways of the film is that animals are not things. They're not inanimate objects. And the science is in. We know that all animals are sentient beings. We are animals. We're all animals. And I think also, a takeaway for the film is that as consumers, we can all make a difference. So we're not left feeling powerless. We actually are empowered. We can make a difference every day.
Now, Jo-Anne actually has PTSD because of the things that she's seen. What was the journey like for her in sharing this?
Well, the process of making the film goes back to when we first started shooting, was in the summer of 2011. So, we had a really lengthy process. And then the research and development phase started in earnest in the fall of 2010. So we were in very close contact over the course of the entire project. And we are now, as well, as the project is in its distribution phase. And yeah, Jo-Anne's PTSD, she's actually, dealt with it quite a bit. But it was quite heightened during the development of the project. So I decided I really wanted that to be a focus without it becoming a focus, if that makes sense. So I wanted to touch on it and not ignore it, but I didn't want it to become the focus. Yeah. I didn't want it to become the focus because I think that would have detracted from what the film is really about. But by touching on it, we see that, like any other war photographer, you can become very haunted. You can become very impacted on a deeply personal level. We just touch on it in a scene, and I think that stays with people. They remember that, and they also see throughout the film by seeing her photographs that it's kind of you come to understand that she's witnessed a lot. So the good thing is that she's this is her life's work, and she's a pretty resilient and radiant person and hopeful person. So she's fine. She's fine.
She's in good health. Good to know.
Fine. Yeah.
So IndieCan is your distributor, yes?
For Canada.
Yeah, and how are you feeling about working with them? They're a new distribution company, but
yeah. So Avi Fettergreen is a good friend of mine, and we go back a couple of years. In fact, it was when I really started developing the project in the fall of 2010 that he encouraged me to really hurry and develop it so that I could start pitching it, because I had just been nominated for a Donald Britton Award with the Geminis for my last film, which is called Water on the Table. And he was really kind of the fire beneath me, just, helping me to push the Ghosts in Our Machine forward. So probably I wouldn't have done it as quickly if it weren't for him. Anyway, yes, his Canadian distribution company is called Indican. And yeah, we're having a great time. Very collaborative. We're having fun, making good decisions together and working hard. He's a really passionate filmmaker himself. He's also a producer, and not on this project, but he produces lots of fiction and nonfiction films. And yeah, no complaints whatsoever. It's great.
Cool. So tell me, how can audiences get connected with the film? Where is it now? Where is it going to expand to? What are your websites? I want the full lowdown.
Okay. So, well, first of all, I always give our website URL to people because we have a very active, multi-tiered, exciting website, theghoስትsinOurMachine.com. And it's not your regular website. It's, it's a WordPress website, so it's very intuitive to navigate.
It's very cool. I've been on it. It's very cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We have an interactive story that's a companion to the film that's front and center on our homepage. We encourage everyone to take that journey. You can click on it. It can become a full screen, clickable narrative that you can walk through that, you can either watch it before you see the film or after you see the film. They're really meant to work together. It's like a marriage. And we worked with interactive art directors, the Goggles, who are based in Vancouver, and that was a great experience. There's also many other features on our website to explore. You can learn more about animal industries. You can learn about alternatives. You can watch our trailer. You can visit our gallery of images. You can sign up for our monthly e-newsletter. You can oh my gosh, go to the website. Our national broadcaster is Documentary Channel here in Canada. And they also commissioned the documentary. So Bruce Cowley was the commissioning editor, wonderful partner in this entire process. And November is our national broadcast premiere, and we're very excited for that. We're going to plan some special events around that. And yeah, we're thrilled. And so, yeah, great news as we roll out across Canada.